Welcome to the MadTrio podcast. This week we have the California Pariah, Jonathan Charny, James, the Fattman Stevens. Hello. And Rob, the old guy.
You're listening to the Rob Charny Show.
Yeah, that's me. I'm here once again.
So we're going to start out with our typical thing is bringing out the dead. And this time we have a musical track, apparently. I'm stopping that. That's getting annoying. So Barry Newman, Vanishing Point, and the Limey actor died at 92. I think we did this last week. Breaking Bad and Laundromat manager dies at 52 of Mike Batayeh. No idea how to say that.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
This is from Breaking Bad.
What are you talking about here? I'm lost.
I've never seen it. So Paul Jeffrey, actor in Excalibur and Grey Stroke, dies at 68. And see, Hossein Cosgrove Ali Vaziri, better known as the Iron Sheik, has died at 81.
Wrestler?
Yeah, the wrestler.
Right? Yeah.
So he was actually born in Iran in 1942, later immigrated from a small village to the United States. And massive, if you've never watched wrestling back in the day, he was really big as a bad guy. He, gimmickly, he turned Sergeant Slaughter to say how evil the United States was. Or as some people have called him lately, Stolen Valor Slaughter, which I think is hilarious.
Well, he was never in the service, right?
Nope, never.
Yeah.
So here's a listicle. This one's for you, Melanie. I thought this was funny. 12 worst tasting beers people have voted. Best served by pouring down your sink. Now, I have a question for you, or I want you to think of the one beer that you think should be on this list. So, starting at number 10, any India Pale Ale. I actually agree with that.
Yeah, I thought the IPA fad was... I think it was just a fad. Yeah. I never really found any that tasted all that great.
Iron City, which is proudly brewed in Pittsburgh, might be its problem.
Where's our new guest to come on? He's from there, right?
Yeah, if he shows up, well, I can't wait to.
If he shows up, you have to bring that back up to him.
So number 10, Pabst Blue Ribbon, the unofficial beer, beer of hipsters nationwide.
I refuse to accept that.
Comes from the PBR collector. This is the unofficial beer of hipsters nationwide. Countless people believe that PBR is nothing more than cheaply made swill enjoyed by elderly mechanics and ironic college students.
Well, not an elderly. I can't even.
Clean Light.
I cannot say that I drink it much at all.
I've had it. I'm not a beer fan, so I'm the wrong. Was and is undrinkable to me. Admits one beer drinker. Ooh. Ice House. I don't have to read these because some of these are funny. Another relic from many drinkers' college years. Ice House has a reputation for being bottom of the beverage barrel in terms of quality. So if you're attending college in Midwest and Bud Light was just too expensive for you, Ice House took up a permanent spot in your refrigerator. Heineken.
Yeah, I'm with that one. I think Heineken is highly overrated.
Yeah, I mean, I've drank it a few times. It's just not one that I go to ever.
Here's one I've never heard of. Beer 30. I actually thought this was a joke, but it's not, apparently. Here are words of advice. When selecting a quality beverage, never shop at a dollar store. I got this beer from dollar store that had a big clock on the can called
I love it.
Called Beer 30, reports one avid beer drinker. Oh my goodness, I have never tasted anything worse. What a shocker.
That's funny.
Budweiser. I've never liked Budweiser. Coors Light.
It's not Bud Light, it's Budweiser.
Bud Light,
the regular beer.
Bud White, Budweiser, they all taste like ass to me personally.
Well, you don't like beer, so who's going to listen to you?
That's just true.
Yeah.
This is why this section needs to be sponsored by my favorite adult beverage of choice. Any pumpkin flavored beer. And number 1, drum roll, please.
Any pumpkin flavored beer?
I've never had any. But pumpkin has
the Yeah, it was one of those to me, it's a fad thing where they started making all these seasonal beers for different tastes, and that was that period of time. And let's throw some pumpkin in it and see if it makes any difference.
To quote a former radio disc jockey, pumpkin flavored seems to be a flavor bully. So anytime you put it in there, that's the only thing you generally taste.
So the thing about it is that a lot of these pumpkin flavor things, they're not strictly pumpkin flavor. They're just pumpkin with with cinnamon, nutmeg, coriander. It's the stupid pumpkin spice craze. That's what it is. It's not necessarily the pumpkin flavor, because pumpkin doesn't have that strong of a flavor.
No, it doesn't.
It really doesn't.
However, unfortunately, just like every college white girl in your favorite college town, I actually really like pumpkin spice lattes.
I like the pumpkin spice flavor stuff. I think it just doesn't need to go on goddamn everything.
So, was there any beer that made you think when you read this that should have been on there? And for me, it was Natural Ice.
Steel Reserve.
Old guy?
Any Coors product.
Well, that made the list, so... So I saw a picture I wanted to talk about because I thought it was funny, and let's see if I can describe it if I can get to this picture. It was from one of my groups I'm on Facebook. And it basically has a picture of music formats. And it said 1953, the record. 1963, the 45. 1973, 8 tracks. 83, cassettes. 93 is CDs. 03 is MP3 players. 2013 is Blu-ray. 2023, records.
Yeah.
So anybody wanted to...
What's old becomes new.
So they've already saying cassettes are making a comeback. So do you think sometime in the near future, 8-track or MP3 players are going to make a comeback?
I could see MP3 players. I'm not even sure I agree with the cassettes. I mean, when you have
Laserdisc.
I really like the Laserdisc format, though, to be honest with you. God, for the time, the quality was outstanding.
It was for the time. It was the only way to get true high quality video. It really was. And it was popular with the quality nuts up until the invention of DVD. Then that kind of went away, believe it or not. I recently found a copy, I swear, of the Titanic on Laserdisc.
I believe it.
Which really shocked me. Let's see.
Well, you shock easy.
Yeah.
So, Friday, I know John knows who he is. Rob, did you ever pay much attention to MMA?
No, not really. Not my thing.
But you know the name Conor McGregor.
Oh, yeah. I saw where he punched out some mascot.
Conor McGregor.
Game, right?
Punched the mascot out during halftime for, I think it was the Miami Heat? Yes,
yeah.
The Miami Heat. And it was a halftime show where he was coming out to promote some new pain relief spray called TIDL Sport. And so what the whole thing was he was supposed to come out and just kind of give this, mascot a little tap. Well, he went a little overboard and sent the guy to the hospital.
Well, gee, how would you like to be that guy in the mascot costume and say, hey, Aaron McGregor's going to come out and just lightly tap you?
So are you saying Conor McGregor opened up a can of on him?
Sure. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to use that clip as much as I can.
So he punched the mascot. The mascot fell to the ground, and then he punched him again. And then sprayed him with the pain relief spray, saying that he needed it. And the fans hated it. They were booing Conor McGregor during this whole thing. So it was a whole publicity mess.
Oh, boy.
And the guy got sent to the hospital, and he's not even allowed to even speak publicly about it. So it's
Oh,
mess. I'm like, if this was supposed to be a comeback on your career, this is just fail. And then on top of that, it fails for the product that he was trying to sell. I saw that story and I'm like, oh my God, really? Did he just really beat this guy?
Yeah. Jeez. Let alone the lawsuit that's coming from the mascot.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Like, the mascot needs to sue the guy. I mean, it's just one thing, and then he gets beat. It's like, this wasn't an MMA fight.
No.
The only question,
this is a stunt.
The only question I have is, how much did Conor McGregor actually hold back? And by the way, Conor McGregor is a known scumbag, so that's not say that he could have gone full throttle on this guy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he probably went full throttle on him, but if you're a trained fighter and you come out to do, some little spar thing, you gotta really hold back. Like, one little pop, guy goes down, then you do your little spraying him with the stuff. You don't go down when he's on the ground and hit him again. This isn't an MMA fight. You don't keep hitting them when they're down.
By the way, this is why they should have gone out. This is why they should have gone with a professional wrestler. They should have gone with, some big name like Roman Reigns, somebody else besides Conor McGregor who actually knows how to pull his punches.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So, speaking of somebody in a lot of trouble, so have you heard that Arby's, the one in Texas, Houston, Texas, is actually in quite a bit of trouble and has a lawsuit against them. And the reason why oh no, this is actually not a laughing matter on this one. This is actually one of every cook's worst nightmares. A woman was locked inside a freezer in Louisiana. It wasn't Houston, Texas, but they're being sued. The Arby's franchise is sued in Texas. In Louisiana, for over $1 million in damages because the Arby's restaurant, the manager was filed with gross negligence for not fixing the freezer door for over 9 months.
Believe
so
it.
The 63-year-old woman was locked inside a freezer until 10 a.m. the next morning, where, get this, one of the worst things is her son found her.
Oh, no.
So she's dead, right?
Oh, yeah, she's dead. You can't be in one of those freezers overnight and live, really.
So as somebody who's worked on and off in the restaurant industry, do you know what the temperature of those freezers get to?
Oh, yeah. They get, most of them, when they're closed like this overnight, you come in and they're -20 at least.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you do not survive that for overnight. Yeah, her hounds were found bloody. It's just a mess. Yeah. Yeah. So that one is one that's like, it's literally one of those nightmare situations for any cook. Is like, you get in there and you can't get that freezer door open for anything. You start to panic right away.
Do you know the bad thing about this is that the jury, or I'm assuming this will go to either criminal or civil courts. The jury, you have to decide how much is a human life worth. And that's, and then half the time the businesses play some sort of game when the people never get what they want. I mean, look at PG&E in California. Man, that's rough. I'd be going for blood.
Yeah, her family is pissed. And apparently this has been going on for over 9 months. They were talking about that they have to keep the door open with a box. I don't know if she failed to do that. The box got bumped. The door closed. What exactly happened to get the door locked like that? But I mean, they have switches inside for emergencies, but if that breaks, you are literally screwed. Those doors are thick, and you're not getting out of that. I think I would try to be tearing up the ceiling. I would be doing something to get that thing.
But she was in her 60s, right? I mean, the
63.
Depending on what shape she is, she might not have been able to even try to do anything. It might have been
right.
Man,
yeah. Well, that's exciting.
Well, you want to talk about that? That's not a joke either. I thought this was funny. This is from Engadget.com. Man allegedly used a Nintendo duck hunt gun to rob a convenience store. Police have arrested a South Carolina man after he allegedly robbed a convenience store armed with, guess this, a Nintendo light gun primarily used in the 1980s to play Duck Hunt, Hogan's Alley, Guns Shoe, and others. The 25-year-old suspect allegedly made away with $300 in cash after donning a mask, a wig, hoodie, sweatshirt, and aforementioned Nintendo. And basically, he spray painted it black except the orange trigger. I don't know why. He got in trouble, and the original, let's see, using a fake gun to commit a crime is no joke and has been a serious issue has been a serious issue for decades. This is the first one I've heard of where he's, because usually they use one of those, if it's not a real gun, they're using an airsoft gun. This first one I've heard of using a Nintendo light zapper.
Well, nobody ever said crooks were smart, but he got away with it.
He stole the $300, but he's in custody. I had a question though.
Where was this again?
South Carolina.
I wonder what the CCW laws are there. I mean, he's lucky the guy behind the counter didn't have a real gun.
So I had a question. Can you still get charged? Because if you commit a robbery without a firearm, it's a different charge. And if you committed it...
Every state's different, but some states have imitation firearms laws too. So that if you use an imitation firearm, it's just the same as a regular firearm as far as the charges go.
I mean, it's intent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'd go with. It's intent. So he's intending to rob the place. So...
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. Crazy. Okay. All right,
real gun or not?
Yeah, real gun or not. So I've got I want you to mentally visualize this. All right. So you guys know what the guards at Buckingham Palace look like. They've got the big black their shakos and the red tunics and all that stuff. Well, they also have a royal band, right? And so the front row is, in a lot of these style bands, are usually trombones, and then it goes trumpets and onwards and forwards and whatever. But so here's this: they're standing out there, they're getting ready to play. Must have been a very, very hot day out there on the royal grounds somewhere where the band's getting ready to do their thing, and they're standing. The band's in this uniform, the big shako, the big hat, and the heavy tunic, and it's really hot, and they're standing there in a trombone, and the guys are all lined up, and this one guy in the trombone line just decides to he's had enough. Not really. He fainted, and he killed right over. Right, this blam hits the ground. I'm gonna give this guy a lot of credit because he came to as he's on the ground. He's still on the ground, and he's on his side, and he's still trying to play. Give him a lot of credit for this. I had to watch the video on it. It was very good.
So, I mean,
he staggers to his feet.
Okay.
Yeah, he tried to keep playing while he was on his side. So it's like,
if those uniforms are even
king and country, man.
If those uniforms look as hot as some of those Beefeater uniforms do, I couldn't imagine doing that in any sort of hot weather.
Yeah, well, you're right. And, I don't think England normally has a whole lot of hot weather, but they had a streak during this period of time where it was pretty warm for them. And poor guy passed right out.
That's kind of terrible.
It's kind of terrible. I had to give him, props, man. He just kept trying to kept going. So, and then in the background, you can see the emergency guys running to try to get to him. He's already by the time they got to him, he's already back up and standing and playing again. It was kind of neat. Good on him. I just wanted to give the guy a shout out because I thought he did great.
So I want to add another to my previous law enforcement one. Sonic employee arrested in New Mexico after cocaine found in a hot dog.
Ew.
An employee of the Sonic drive-in in New Mexico was arrested after he lost his bag of cocaine that somehow ended up in a customer's hot dog. By the way, if the customer bit into it, it's like, man, this is just... Police said the illegal narcotics were discovered the customer's recent Coney purchase at Sonic. The substance was inadvertently placed in the food as Salazar was preparing the order, according to police. I had a question when I read this. What was he doing with the baggie and preparing food? Was he going to take a hit when he was. That's the thing. Like, how does it end up? And it doesn't discover it.
I kind of think that's probably what was going on, but
It does say that he admitted to police that he purchased the cocaine from someone in the restaurant's parking lot. I'm not surprised there's drug deals at the local Sonic.
yeah.
That was the strange thing that was afoot at the Circle K.
That's a whole new one. I was like kind of imagining, like, you know how they have those like cheese dogs with like the cheese inside the hot dog. I was kind of thinking that's what it was. You bite in and there's like a bunch of cocaine all throughout it. That would be a very terrible surprise.
As you're wondering, why does it taste so awful? And a couple of minutes later, why are you so wired?
You know, if an old guy like me gets that hot dog, it could kill me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it could. It definitely could.
It could.
So, did you guys hear that Dwayne Johnson
The Rock
is actually a defendant against a $3 billion kidnapping suit?
Huh?
Oh, yeah. This is actually really happening. So, Dwayne Johnson is among a numerous amount of people who are being indicted under a $3 billion
Oh, yes.
kidnapping lawsuit.
I know this.
Now, I will get into the list of who is in there with him because it gets kind of strange. But the person that's suing him is Trinesha, I think that's how you pronounce it, Biggers, a.k.a. Raka Khan, who is also a former wrestler.
I couldn't tell by that name.
So what happened and why she's claiming that she was kidnapped is she was one of the most wanted fugitives in the city of El Paso, Texas.
Well, that's saying a lot.
There was a warrant out for her arrest that was pertaining to a child custody order. Anyways, so, you know, they finally caught her and all this stuff, and she was claiming kidnapping. So she was out running from the cops and gets caught, and now she's saying that she was kidnapped over this whole thing along with her children. So during this whole thing, it comes out that this is a 50-page lawsuit, and the reason why it's 50 pages is because of the damn names on it. So she's got Dwayne Johnson on there, The Miz, Nikki Bella, Maurice, Heath Miller, Mark Jindrak. And those are just some of the beginning names. And then we get into the Texas governor, Beto O'Rourke. And Jimmy Carter's in there as well.
The nearly 90-year-old former president.
They're not sure who that really is, but it's also got Chris Benoit, who's I'm pretty sure is dead. Michael Jordan, Reverend Al Sharpton. And it continues on to actually include companies like Publix, Cash App, Venmo, Facebook, Instagram, Medicaid. I'm not going to go through all of them. But it's a little weird. U-Haul, Home Depot, PetSmart, Petco, Best Buy, Kinko's, Gold's Gym, Nike, the Chicago Public Schools, PNC Bank, the NFL, WNBA, Pentagon Office of the Inspector General, TMZ, and it keeps going. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but I mean, those were some of the weird ones that I'll
Wow.
I've heard of people blaming Medicaid for a lot of things, but kidnapping is not one of them.
At first I was like, wait a minute, The Rock's in a $3 billion lawsuit. What's going on here? And there's kidnapping, all this stuff. And then I start going through all these names and all these companies, and I'm like, how has a judge not thrown this out yet?
Yeah, it's a good question. And how did she find an attorney to write this thing?
Right?
That's the other thing. I would take that attorney's license away.
There's one question. Was it pro bono?
Well, because he's even dumber. He even deserves to lose his license even more.
Because if he's getting paid, I could totally go up to a judge and say, Your Honor, she matched my price. How much you getting?
I don't think she doesn't have any money anymore.
And to be honest, there is, wrestlers are known for doing stupid stuff and being scam artists. But I have a feeling this is not the greatest wrestler of all time. This isn't a good scam.
Do you think it's a brain damage?
Yeah.
Maybe she got dropped on her head too many times.
It's got to be something. Maybe she just was, it's got to be that. Or maybe, you know what she is? She's the wrestler that's so bad that everybody in the locker room's like, "You're the amazing, you're the greatest," and they just ribbed her out of the career.
I think it's like she needs to be, I think she needs a therapist. She needs somebody to come in and actually assess her something, because it sounds like paranoid schizophrenia. I mean, you got Jimmy Carter in there, for God's sake. I mean, come on. And Chris Benoit's been dead. I don't even know if he was around during the time that all this stuff with her running from the cops and everything was going on.
Does it say what wrestling company she worked for?
Oh, I'll have to go back and see, but I think she was WWE.
She had to be a TNA, or there's no way she's
a WWE person. No, okay, so that's the personality she was listing. Let me go back and see if it actually says what company she was with. But yeah, I'm just looking at it, and it's like, this is just insane. So, just says former wrestler. It doesn't say which company in the article, but I'm sure we can.
It's got to be TNA. Total Nonstop Action, or Impact Wrestling, because there's no way with a name like Raka Khan that the WWE is going to actually let that pass the smell test, just because that's so close to Shaka Khan, who at this point probably has a pretty big bank account.
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't say. I'd have to probably Google that. But,
some people will sue for any reason, for any time, for any kind of thing. So.
Yep. TNA, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. She was also in WWE.
Really?
And she competed in the WWE Diva Search too. So. So probably she was in there for a minute. She debuted in 2005 and retired in 2011.
Yeah, she was in WWE for a hiccup. They probably realized she was either awful wrestler, or crazy. Which, to be honest, I think questioning sanity is required to be a wrestler.
True. But I just look at the list of names that she came out with, and I'm like, did she just go through the phone book?
By the way, can this be a Lifetime movie special at some point? I want to see this just because it sounds funny. So talk about
what a great idea. We'll shop this thing, and you can get all these cameos. Look at all the people we could get to do cameos in this movie.
Right. So there's an interview coming up by Arnold Schwarzenegger, action star, millionaire, 1,000 titles. It sounds interesting. He actually talks about his father in this interview. And this particular one's
on Netflix?
I don't know. I don't remember. It just the thing I saw just says he talks about it. I didn't see where. But Arnold Schwarzenegger hasn't been particularly open about his father, who was a Nazi, and something that when he was running for office that came out to light. And I want to find this interview because it's the first time that in length he's actually sat down and talked about it. And this article is from the New York Post on June 6th, if anybody want to read it. It's actually a really great article. Actually go to Interesting SHT on Facebook. It's where we dump our stories. But it's super interesting. He talks about his father being I think he said he was an alcoholic, so you never knew what father you were going to get. That, you never knew if you're going to get the loving father or the abusive. He talks about his brother who died from alcohol. I don't remember if it's from a crash or poisoning. But it's a super interesting read, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this interview.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about it. I know there was
here it is. The A-lister
documentary I saw about Arnold. I don't know if there's stuff in there from that.
The A-lister admitted that his father, a Nazi party official, has described him as a tyrant and might have suffered from a myriad of mental health struggles. He was buried underneath a building, rubble for 3 days, and on top of that, lost the war. He recalled his father. They went home depressed. Austria was a country of broken men. I think there's the times my father really struggled. And it's an amazing article because Schwarzenegger's a very interesting cat, because all this public stuff about him, but there's so much stuff that happened earlier in his background or his career that you just never hear about. So anything that comes about the guy, especially since he was always a favorite actor of mine.
That's not saying much. He's not a great actor.
But so to be honest, it's just like it's like Lars Ulrich. You don't have to be an amazing drummer to have hits. You're just what that band needs.
So look,
Lars Ulrich isn't Neil Peart.
All right, fine. Go ahead. So, and I know a lot of people. He was great in the Terminator movies, and he played himself basically.
The Running Man. True Lies.
You want to know what's really bad? Is his latest? I don't know if it's HBO or where it's at. It's called Fubar. It's Fubar, all right.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
I watched a few minutes of it, and I haven't gone back to it, to be honest.
I went a couple episodes in, and I went, this is even if I was bored to tears, I don't think I'd finish.
You know what he's doing?
So it doesn't get better.
He's phoning it in.
Boy,
However,
it's not.
You know what they need to do now, though? They need to do King Conan from Conan the Barbarian. Because if you actually read, I've read a little bit about the far as the Conan of the Cimarron, which all that stuff is taken, and they need to do that where he's the old warrior king, and I think they could do that well. And since that's one of his beloved movies, I think he would do well in it. And he's never been a great actor either.
Well, the thing that made Conan good is that he didn't have any lines.
He had lines, just not many. He had sentences like "Me, Conan,
Not
strong."
even
You're thinking of
one that he played a role as like handsome stranger or something like that, and he absolutely had no lines because he couldn't speak a word of English.
Hercules of New York, where you saw Arnold Schwarzenegger and they dubbed him with some hippie dude like, "Hey,
That's
dude,
right.
what's up?" Hilarious movie if you've never seen it, by the way, because it's totally odd watching some really strange voice come out of Arnold Schwarzenegger's mouth.
Arnold. All right, I'm gonna try one here.
Wait.
Another listicle.
Hold on.
What? No.
Before you do that, we got a word from our sponsor. Today's show is brought to you by Audacity, the unforgettable party game for mischievous people. The game where dignity is overrated. Make sure you go to oddassity.com or selected stores. Make sure you use MadTrio, all caps, all one word, for 10% off your final order. Make sure you tell Miss Audacity herself that the MadTrio sent you. Do you want to keep up to date with the maddest of the mad at the MadTrio podcast? Make sure you go to themadtrio.com or check out our social media feeds on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Your turn.
Jeez. So, a listicle for Melanie. 11 offensive things that were acceptable 100 years ago, but not so much anymore. So let's see. We'll go through this together because I didn't really read this.
Wait, hold on. But before it starts, the list that Rob is reading, it has no inflection or reflection of we, MadTrio podcast, Real Flicks Reviews, or Guy Tech, or anybody else. We disavow any bad words, racism, etc. that may come from said list.
Okay. Continue on, Rob.
I don't want to say anything now.
Hey, I'm just covering our basis. It's like, signing one of those you will not sue us things.
Yeah. Well, we need to start the whole thing out with that then, because I'm sure somebody's offended already. Okay, so what was it? 11 offensive things that were acceptable 100 years ago. So we go from outhouses to in-houses. Basically, I think they were both at the same time anyway. I mean, sometimes, there was a bucket inside the house. So that was offensive. I'll agree with that.
Dear Liza.
Radioactive elixir.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so for a period of time, people, and this was 100 years ago, remember, they're aiming that. People were obsessed with putting it in everything that, from radium water to and toothpaste to all kinds of stuff, which in hindsight, probably wasn't a great idea. Radioactive toothpaste. Hell, let's make our teeth really fall out fast. Corporal punishment.
There was a precursor to teeth whitening. You want it bright, now it glows in the dark.
Probably. Then falls out. Corporal punishment. I don't understand. What is that? Why was that offensive? I think we still need it.
He was one of my favorite wrestlers. I guess it depends on your definition of what corporal punishment is.
Good smack in the back end there, never hurt anybody.
Well, they just don't want they just don't want Catholic priests to do
quiet
it.
for a minute. Going, hey, wait a minute. I remember the day in school. The coaches would be the ones the doll up the punishment with a paddle, the size of a tennis racket with holes in it to really let the wind whistle through it and give you a good sting.
Well, how about if it comes back, we can't let it happen in Catholic schools. Those kids have taken enough punishment.
That's true.
Yeah, they were born in a Catholic family.
Yeah. I don't know how this is offensive. Not graduating high school 100 years ago, it was more acceptable than it is today, but that's not offensive.
Yeah, I don't know anybody up in up in arms, like pitchfork and axe handles angry that somebody didn't graduate high school.
Nah. Sometimes you got to wonder about these people who write these lists. Thinking the Milky Way is the universe. Our universe.
I'm not offended by that. Is there really somebody where that's the cross they're going to die on? It's not the universe.
Is this generated by AI? I'm beginning to wonder. Asbestos. Yeah, that's offensive.
Yeah,
sad but offensive.
Wow. So this.
Why is
this thing?
Is this just?
I don't know.
I have to be honest. When it comes to list of offensive things, none of these are really offensive to me. I could say a number of things that'll be offensive to almost everybody. They wouldn't be included on the list.
Is this supposed to be like outdated things? I don't know.
It's titled wrong. Although this next one, gun clubs in schools, I'm sure is offensive to some people. That's not offensive to me, but in today's society, I'm sure somebody, what? You have a gun club in a school? Oh my God, they're children.
That's at least the one thing I could see people being super offended out. So,
yeah.
So that's the first one.
Oh, well, all right. Institutionalizing women. That's not offensive to me at all. That's for no reason. I'm sorry.
I see the first comment at the beginning of this segment.
Yeah, there'll be one. Watch the first one be Melanie.
No, she would come on here and harass
Why
you.
are you laughing at that? I'll get you over that one.
No, you know what? I know a number of women that say yes, they need a break from their husbands. So it depends on who you ask.
Yeah, fine. Opium? How's opium offensive? I don't know that's a good idea. But...
I mean, we still use opium for a lot of things in hospitals and
yeah.
So I mean, that can't really be offensive. I mean,
how about this one? Now, this one maybe spittoons.
Yes, I would call spittoons offensive. My mother would probably punch somebody for using something as a spittoon in her house because I know she's threatened in the past.
So what I find offensive is getting out of my car all over this county and finding freaking chew thrown all over the freaking parking lots. That's what I find offensive. So I think they should use a spittoon in their damn car and leave their fucking chew in there.
By the way,
the same thing with the cigarette butts.
Yeah, that's it.
You know who I miss, though? I have to admit, I do miss watching people chew tobacco on baseball, mainly because it's what they did when I was young. Wink,
That's it. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Wow, that was the most least offensive list in history.
No kidding.
The only thing offensive on that, the only thing on that list that I know at least a handful of people that'd be pissed off about was the gun clubs in school. I know a number of people who I'm friends with that give me enough shit for being a gun owner. How dare you?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of don't think. I mean, why are guns? So I would have joined a damn gun club in school. I mean, that would have been fun. I know my.
Well, yeah, but the whole thing is that you mention guns to some groups now, and they go crazy. What they forget about is that these gun clubs teach safety teach proper
Yeah.
gun handling, teach sportsmanship. They teach all kinds of things, and it's all the stuff that we really need. Instead of hiding it, it's the old forbidden fruit situation. Instead of hiding it, come out and teach it. Teach safety, teach respect. All of the things that need to be taught. But
So
my dad was telling me that him and his brothers used to be able to take their little 22s to school, and they could leave them at the school while they went and did their classes and everything. So they'd go out and do little shooting after school. Yeah. And it wasn't a big deal. The teachers would either lock them up or they
50s and 60s. It was common. I mean,
Yeah,
I took
so-
my little 22 gun stock to wood shop to refinish it.
Yeah. I think our culture of being afraid of firearms and things like that is just, it's really kind of disconcerting because, it brings a bad connotation to a tool rather than the person who's using it for bad. Yeah. So that's where I'm at on it. I don't think a gun or a knife is a bad thing. It's the person who's using it that can either be good or bad.
Here's the thing that I've had arguments. I've actually had arguments with Ryan about this, even though he's a pro gun. It's the people issue. It's like, you and I would argue, yeah, obviously, if you kill someone with the hammer's bad. It's not the person. It's the person. It's not the hammer. And I think that's just part of a conversation that we've had over and over again, where we're having, it's the gun violence, the falling apart of nuclear family. And I would argue whether it's, a traditional family or non-traditional family. I just think it's a part of a sick culture that all of this is coming to a head. And I think as soon as people realize that, I heard somebody the other day say the major thing that's missing in today's culture is something I believe in, is basic respect. And it's not like when I was a kid, the old folks would demand, you're going to respect me, which means, you're going to give me top level respect automatically. It's like, no, the guy was saying, you just got to be nice. Don't be a dick. And I think that's missing from today's culture.
Yeah. I think it's that and accountability. Take responsibility for your own damn actions.
Oh, no, totally. I mean, it's 100%. I think there's so much more. I think the internet is a net negative in society. As much as I love it, I think the negative side is everybody treats their online life to in real life. They say horrendous things to people in real life, and at some point in time, somebody's going to punch you in the face for it. It's like if you're a white guy, you call a black guy the N-word. Eventually, you're going to find a black dude who's just going to wipe the floor with you. It's, I just don't get it. And the gun thing, to me, is ridiculous because it's a total worldview difference. Is like friends of mine who are on the left, they'll say, oh, if you get rid of guns, it should solve most of the issues. I would say, but if somebody wants to do that enough, they're going to find another tool. Like, wasn't there a Japanese guy who stabbed 28 people or something like that a number of years ago? If you want to cause harm and mayhem, or look at one of the biggest, was it Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, who just died? He's a victim of the United States government and MK Ultra, and he killed a ton of people. I mean, come on, it's the guy.
Yeah, it is. So I don't know. It's things like Rob's little list. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it just kind of sounded like it's old things that have trended out, or we found out that are bad for us, or things like that. Was mostly what I think I heard on the list. Nothing offensive.
It was a poorly titled listicle.
So, if you were going to call it something, what would you have called it? Because it's definitely not offensive to me.
I don't know. Old
Times have changed.
Yeah, times have changed. That sounds better.
Or
there you go.
Maybe I'm just not sensitive enough. I mean, I've been friends with James for a long time, so that sensitivity is it's kind of been burned away a bit.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys think about AI? We've talked about it a little bit. There's a growing number of companies that have been split. Like Apple basically banned their employees from using like Chat GTP or whatever. And there's a number of companies like Microsoft that have embraced it. Elon Musk is notorious, like he's not a fan of it, even though he has a company that's doing it. What do you think?
I'm not bothered necessarily by AI. I think we need to be a little bit careful in how we use it, because I mean, you have the ones that we've talked about that are kind of like, they're doing their own thing now. Like the one that was, trying to get around CAPTCHAs that I talked about, or, so I think in that trend of making it too smart is the problem. But I don't know how we get around that. I don't know how we keep it stupid to the point where it's helpful to us, but not too smart to where it's going to take on a life of its own. That's the problem. That's what, sci-fi has been making movies, books, things about for years, is AI that we were creating to be smart for a purpose that became too smart. I mean, that there's a whole mass amounts of billions of dollars that have been made off of that concept. So
I have an idea.
How do we do that?
This is, by the way, what I'm about to say is based off a Halo novel, the video game novelization. In the Halo universe, such thing is called a dumb AI and a smart AI. The dumb AI, basically, in its field, it's incredibly intelligent, but it's very limited and narrowed within its field. And there's a smart AI, and the smart AI in this game is Cortana, where there's no limitation. But the limitation of that smart AI is it only lasts 7 years before it dies. So I guess the questions you'd have to figure out a way is, and I like the dumb AI, is you limit its field of focus. So you can only do X, Y, Z. I think that's the only way you can limit it, because if you have a full throttle AI, eventually it'll become sentient in its own way, I think. Yeah.
But I mean, how do we in our culture do something like that? I mean, how are we going to make an AI that is smart enough to accomplish X, Y, and Z, and then shut itself off after? I mean, do we just do a failsafe in there?
Yeah, I don't think you can.
That's what I'm kind of curious about.
It's not within human nature. I think in theory you'd have to figure out how to program that, and hopefully it's not smart enough to override that. But it's not within human nature. We like going to the next level, and we like pushing it.
Yeah. Rob?
Yeah.
You're quiet over there.
Well, I'm quiet because I'm debating this whole AI thing. And, on one hand, on the surface of it, you look at it, you kind of go, it's nowhere near the point of we have to be worried about it yet. However, at some point, could it be? Didn't Isaac Asimov, he came out with his rules of robotics and the whole idea that you have to, if you give anything intelligence, you have to make sure that it understands that, humans are different, that, do no harm. But what's harm? I mean, because we are already doing a part of it when, we have military drones already, and they're going out there and they're killing people, and it involves a fair amount of AI. So I'm sitting here going, where do we deal with this? Where do we draw the line? How deep do we need, do we need to really look into this? And can we get everybody to buy into making sure that whoever develops and writes the programs, because that's basically all AI really is still, somebody's written the program to get it to start, right? It's like flint on a flame. You spark it and it starts, then it takes a life on its own.
I don't think you could get everybody to say yes to that.
Well, see, there's the problem then. If you don't get everybody to buy in, and I mean everybody, then basically even the discussion's mute. Because somebody's always going to abuse it.
It's the same argument as all the environmental laws in the United States. Like, it's fine if it's good if we do it, but if none of the rest of the world doesn't do it, it doesn't amount to anything. The only thing we're doing is hurting our own economy.
Thing with the whole, with, the nuclear weapons out there,
we had to get everyone on board.
Right.
So I mean, how do we do that with our scientific community?
Well, what may happen. I mean, if you're going to let's use the model of the nuclear weapons pact, the assured destruction type of idea. If that same thing, that same level we're looking at for AI, then maybe the powers that be will step up and say, okay, we've got to control this somehow. And how do we go about it? And the big brains might figure out a way to do it. The problem still is, which we're always still worried about to this point, is the rogue nation or the rogue individuals, whatever it may be, right? That's going to be the same for AI. So,
well, see, that's the problem, is because this is something where, I mean, with, the major weapons like that, I mean, you need access to uranium. Not everybody can have access to uranium. Program. That's something anybody can do in their basement or their closet. We all have access to electronics, and I mean, circuit boards, all that stuff is not something that, is advanced as, nuclear physics. So that's the problem, is somebody in their backyard could get a hold of a few things, read a few books, and start creating their own AI. Granted, it probably won't be as smart or anything like that, but I mean, eventually that stuff can get out,
It's like the Stuntnex virus the United States invented.
This is a discussion that I think we're going to have for a long time to come. And as the knowledge of how to do these things grows and expands and becomes bigger, it's also going to be its own entity at that point. So it'll be interesting to see. So, yeah,
man, this is such a horrible conversation too. Mainly, and the only reason I say that is because somebody who grew up in the 80s and 80s, if you've never watched post-apocalyptic movies, I'm sorry, I started drinking earlier today. That was one of their main thing, like the rogue superpowers, AI, you name it. And I don't know. AI scares the hell out of me.
Blade Runner,
Terminator.
Did you hear the latest? Speaking of Blade Runner, did you hear that Harrison Ford came out and said that can't remember the name of his character in Blade Runner, but anyway, he hunted the rogue robots or whatever you want to call them, androids or whatever they were. Right? He was a cop that supposedly hunted these guys. Did you know he came out and said the theory is that he was also an AI?
Yeah,
but he wasn't human.
Yeah. They said that he was one of the, I forgot what they're called, the robots. Yeah, I heard that a number of years ago, and somebody when I heard it, went really in depth about it. I'm like, oh, that's actually a really good theory.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So who knows? Will these movies come true? Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I mean, they're like I was saying in the beginning of this whole discussion is, the sci-fi community has probably made hundreds of millions of dollars off of this rogue AI concept. I mean, even have Weird Science? Weird Science is another one about AI,
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Sort.
This is, the 50s sci-fi writers.
Yeah.
They
Charny
really started. Yeah. So it's been thought about for a very long time. And it's, we're coming up on it. Where is it possible and what will it become?
Well, I mean, the one that trips me out is the one that I was talking about recently, where it was lying to a whole nother service to get the CAPTCHA done.
Mm.
Remember that story?
I did. Yes.
What it was? I think, was it Chat GPT or something like that?
Yeah, I think it was. Yep.
Yeah, where it's like calling a whole nother service to get around this CAPTCHA. And I'm just like, that's a really interesting story to read, where it's already self-aware enough to be like, no, I'm not this, I'm something else, I'm a cat.
There's something that you guys are reminding me of this conversation is there's a number of artists that have basically come out against AI art, AI music, AI anything like that. And
Right.
I actually, as somebody who's always been big into music, I agree. I mean, one of the things I think about humanity, one of the good things is our creativity. Now, I don't know if there's anything else out in the universe. Don't care, not my trip. But I don't think art can ever be completely new by AI. It can change it, twist it. Look at Data, for example, in Star Trek. And that's the one thing I hope never really comes out. I miss real music. And I say real music because it seems like everybody who's popular, everything's using all these fancy tools and autocorrect, and music's not dirty anymore. Like in the old guy's day, music was dirty. Like they practiced a lot, but if you had a good ear, you could hear where, the guy missed a note or the guy did this, and everything's too perfect now. It's too clean.
Well, that's the downfall with autotune, right? I mean, everything's perfect pitch, and it's like the soul's taken out of it.
Yeah. I don't know. And I think music is such an integral part. Anybody who loves music, they'll tell you that music is one of the few universal things that touches everybody's soul. And it really concerns me as somebody who's a lover of said music that it will be bastardized that way. It bothers me a lot. I don't think it's the one thing I think AI should be definitely banned from doing, or make it, give it a scarlet letter. Yeah, this is fake. This isn't real. This is a mashed up AI music type of thing. There are services, by the way, that are banning AI art. That if it wasn't created by human hands, it's not art.
Yeah. I think, there was a guy I read a while ago that was on one of those Reddit forums, and he was sharing his art on there, and then he got banned because they believed it was too good and it was AI. So, I don't know. I think, and he had to sit there and argue with them and try to get back in, and then they banned him and just completely wouldn't even talk to him anymore because they thought his art was too good to be anything but AI generated. So, I don't know. I think there is a point where, it's nice to hear some of the fallible stuff in human creations of art, whether that be actual drawings or music or writings or anything like that. But I think it's kind of a stupid thing that we give art to AI. Why are we doing that as a culture? I see things where they're like, I described this to an AI and this is what it came up with. Why are we doing that? Why are we using AI for these things?
100%. So, I would say, this is a bit of a sidebar, but I heard somebody say something a while ago that modern children lack the imagination of their forefathers because they have video games that have such tremendous quality. And that sparked something in me as somebody whose imagination was always a giant part of his childhood, whether I'm reading books, listening to music, even playing video games to some degree. I don't know. I just hate the fact we're taking the soul out of everything.
Yeah. We will discuss this more in the next episode.
Probably. So does anybody have anything else to round out this episode?
I've got one other thing. So IBM is being sued for an IT worker who was on sick leave for 15 years for not getting a raise for his $67,000 a year salary while he was off work
for 15 years.
Yeah, he went on sick leave 15 years ago on IBM, and he was on there for leukemia, and he was receiving 54,000 pounds, which equals out $67,000 a year, and he was upset because over those 15 years that he was being given $67,000 a year, he never received a raise.
stupid question number one. And the U.S., if you do, and I don't remember this by heart, but if you go on disability, which I'm assuming that would be, I don't think you get your full pay. So since this is in England, do you get your full pay after like continually? That's amazing.
I guess so. But well, the thing was, is IBM worked to deal with the guy. Said that we're gonna give you this money because you're going on leukemia. Came to agreement with him. When he went on, he had stage 4 cancer, and they gave him 75% of his salary. So it's not full pay of what he was getting.
Wow.
But it was 75% of what he normally gets. I don't know what disability is here, but there was an agreement that he reached with IBM. And then he came back after, 15 years and said, "Hey, I never received a raise.
Yeah.
For all this work I never did." So,
Well, hey,
Hey, if you don't ask, I just honestly, I'm surprised you didn't get fired. I mean, you think after 15 years, you'd be say, "We have done it long enough." We're handing it. I just, because that's what happened in the States. Oh, you've had leukemia for 6 months? Bye, type of thing.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Wow, 15 years.
Yeah,
yeah, I think, I think I would have just been okay with the $67,000, but the guy is sitting there saying that, life and things go on, and he just needed more money.
So we've established that this is not in the United States.
No, he was one of those IT workers out of country, and he lived in the UK. So that's what.
Yeah. All right. So who knows what the laws are there?
Yeah.
I mean,
the judge over there threw it out.
Oh, they did throw it out. Well,
Yeah.
What do you know?
He said that it was an agreement reached between you two, and as far as he's concerned, the agreement that they reached is more than generous.
Oh, okay.
Which I can't say it's not. I mean, $67,000 a year to sit on your ass.
Yeah.
Does he still work for IBM?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, he works for IBM, and
he's still employed. He still gets his $67,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
So of course now he's got stage 4 leukemia, so he may not be around much longer.
No,
that's kind of what I'm sure that's what they were thinking, but that was 15 years ago that he said stage 4 leukemia.
Oh.
So,
wow.
Yeah. It's
who knew you could live for 15 years with that? How about that? Good on him, I guess.
So, anyways, he wanted to provide financial security for his family and send his son to university. I'm thinking you could probably move to a smaller place.
Right. There's got to be something good on him for making the deal, though. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
I'm thinking that's some balls on him to sit there and at home all those years and then be like, there's some raises that we need to have.
Yeah, that's some brass balls right there. That really is. So, ladies and gentlemen, for the California Pariah, the Fat Man and the Old Guy, as always, thank you for listening.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.